You feel the fork turning in your hand. It's heavy, steel, cool against your fingers. It's what you use to move a piece of grilled chicken from the plate to your mouth. You don't think about it. The motion is as natural as breathing. But that weight in your palm, the pivot of wrist, the spear of tines, it's the end point of a story. A sharp rock. For 99.9% of human history, your hands were never this clean. They were stained, gritty, calloused from gripping the edge of a stone flake. Your ancestors weren't holding forks. They were holding the first key to becoming human. And that key wasn't for planting seeds. It was for cutting through muscle and tendon. This is not a story about hunting. It's deeper. Hunting is what you do with a spear. This is about what happened after the hunt, when the animal was down and the real work began. Because a dead antelope is just calories on the hoof. Turning it into a meal, into energy your body could use to build a bigger brain, required something the forest never provided: a blade. Your earliest relatives, like Australopithecus, had jaws like nutcrackers. They spent their days chewing, hours and hours, grinding tough roots and hard-shelled fruits. Their teeth were massive, their faces wide and muscular to anchor all that chewing power. Their brains were about the size of a modern chimpanzee's. They were brilliant at surviving in the world as it was, but they were stuck in it. Then, around 2.6 million years ago, the first stone tools appear. Not elegant hand axes, not yet, just flakes knocked off one rock by another, with an edge sharper than any tooth. They look like accidental debris, but they changed everything, because with a sharp edge, you could do something new. You could slice. Before the blade, eating a large animal was a brutal, inefficient mess. You'd have to pull at flesh with your hands and teeth, gnawing at joints, struggling to get past the hide. Much of the meat, and almost all the marrow locked inside the bones, was wasted. You'd burn more calories fighting the carcass than you'd gain from it. But with a sharp flake, you could skin an animal. You could slice meat into strips thin enough to chew easily. And most importantly, you could crack open a long bone and scrape out the marrow. Marrow is pure, dense fat and calories. It's a nutrient bomb. For a creature used to grinding fibrous plants all day, it was like finding a secret energy source the world had been hiding. This was the first meat advantage. It wasn't about bravery or strength. It was about access. The blade turned a sealed container of nutrients into an open buffet, and your body noticed. The change was slow, over hundreds of thousands of years, but you can see it in the fossil record. The heavy, grinding jaws start to shrink. The massive cheekbones recede. The body isn't wasting energy building and maintaining a giant chewing apparatus anymore. That energy is going somewhere else, into your head. Your brain is the most expensive organ you own. It burns calories at a furious rate just to keep the lights on. Even at rest, it uses about 20% of your body's energy, while only making up 2% of your weight. For a brain to grow larger, it needs a fuel source that's both dense and reliable. You can't power a supercomputer by chewing twigs all afternoon. The marrow, the fatty meat, the organ tissues your ancestors accessed with their stone flakes, they were that fuel. The evidence is in the bones themselves. Archaeologists look at the chemical signature, locked in ancient teeth. They can tell what someone ate. And the shift is clear. More and more carbon from animals, less and less from plants. This wasn't a switch to pure carnivory. It was a dietary upgrade, adding a high-octane fuel to the mix. But this created a new problem, a dangerous one. If you are a leaf-eating ape in a tree, your food doesn't fight back. It doesn't run away. But a carcass, especially a fresh one, is a magnet. It draws everything with teeth. Lions, hyenas, saber-toothed cats. To cut meat beside a kill was to work with your back to the darkness, listening. Every second you spent there, fighting with a stubborn tendon, was a second you were exposed. The solution wasn't a bigger weapon. It was a new behavior. You had to get fast. Get in, get the good parts, and get out. This is where the story twists. The pressure to be fast with a carcass didn't just give us better tools. It rewired our social bonds. One person, alone, with a stone flake, trying to skin a wildebeest while hyenas circle? That's a death sentence. But a group could create a perimeter. Some could watch, weapons ready, while others worked swiftly with their blades. This required a brutal kind of trust. The person cutting gets the first, easiest access to the richest food. The person on guard duty has to believe they'll get their share. Not later, out of kindness, but right then, because the survival of the group depends on it. This is the foundation of the most human of contracts. I watch your back, you share the meal. The sharing wasn't charity. It was logistics. You can't eat a whole zebra by yourself. The meat will spoil. So you distribute it, and in that distribution, something else was born: obligation, a debt. You took meat back to camp, To those who were too old, too young, or watching the children. They couldn't hunt, but they could process hides, gather plants, care for the young. The high-energy fuel from the hunt was now flowing through the entire band, powering more than just the hunters. It created a metabolic economy. The strong runners and throwers at the hunt were like power plants. But the elders with knowledge, the mothers nursing infants, they were the grid. The energy moved from where it was captured to where it was needed most. And the entire species got smarter for it, because now, a child wasn't just fed by its mother. It was fed by the uncle who had a lucky throw, by the aunt who remembered where the water hole was. That child's growing brain was fueled by a network. It could afford to stay helpless and learning for years longer than any other ape. Childhood lengthened, and during those long, protected years, the brain had time to wire itself for things beyond survival. For story, for song, for asking what the tracks meant. This is the second meat advantage. It wasn't just about the nutrients in the food. It was about the social circuitry the food required. Eating meat, especially large meat, forced us to cooperate on a level no primate ever had to before. It built the first real society. And then, things got strange. Because all this time, from those first sharp flakes to the hand axes, we were still eating our meat raw. We were still at the mercy of parasites and bacteria, hitching a ride in the tissue. We had the social framework, the tools, the metabolic upgrade, but we were missing the final piece. Fire was the turning point. It started with a spark in the ash. That first controlled fire, stolen from a lightning-struck tree and nursed in a circle of stones, had a brutal purpose. It was a shield. It kept the things with eyes in the dark, just outside the ring of light. But then, one night, a piece of meat fell into the embers. The smell that rose was something new. Rich, complex, irresistible. Someone fished it out, let it cool, and tasted it. And everything changed again. Cooking is a form of predigestion. Fire breaks down the tough connective tissues that our ancestors spent hours chewing. It unravels proteins, making them far easier for your gut to absorb. It kills parasites and bacteria that would have sowed sickness. But its greatest gift was one of pure, stolen time. Think of your body as a digestive factory. Raw meat requires massive effort to process. Your stomach acids churn, your intestines work for hours to extract the nutrients. Cooked meat is a gift-wrapped package. Your body gets the calories with a fraction of the effort. The difference is dramatic. A cooked meal takes far less energy to digest than a raw one. That freed-up energy had a destination, your brain. This was the final, explosive upgrade. With cooking, the metabolic equation flipped entirely. Now, the energy from the meat wasn't just feeding the brain. It was being saved from the labor of digestion and poured directly into neural growth. The fossil record shows it. The rise of consistent fire use coincides with the most rapid expansion of the human brain in our history. The brain of Homo erectus nearly doubles. By the time Neanderthals and our own direct ancestors are on the scene, they have brains larger than ours today, powered by a diet of cooked food. But the theft went deeper than calories. Fire created a new space, around which the social circuitry could hardwire. The carcass site was a place of danger and urgent, frantic work. The hearth was a place of safety and slow consumption. Here, the sharing ritual became a ceremony. The day's catch, now cooked and fragrant, was divided not under threat of hyenas, but in the glow of the flames. Stories could be told over the meal, not after it. Knowledge could be passed not in hurried warnings, but in the long, slow hours of a full belly and guarded warmth. This is the hearth contract. I provide for the fire, you share the cooked meal. It bound people together not just by need, but by the simple, profound pleasure of warmth and flavor. It made society sticky. It made trust the default, because the cost of betrayal wasn't just a lost meal. It was exile back into the cold, dark, raw world. And here is the quiet, modern twist. That ancient theft of time and energy is still running in you. Every time you eat a cooked meal, your body is spending less effort on digestion than any other ape on the planet. That saved energy is your biological legacy. It's the reason you can read this sentence, feel a complex emotion, plan for a future years away. Your modern life, with all its abstract thought, is built on the mountain of hours your ancestors didn't have to spend chewing. But the theft came with a receipt. Your body evolved to expect that high-octane, pre-processed fuel. It evolved to take the dense, easy energy from cooked meat and marrow and funnel it into running a massive brain. Today, that energy pipeline is open to a flood. The very adaptation that allowed your brain to flourish is now in an environment of endless plenty, making you sick. This is not a flaw in the design. It's a mismatch of worlds. Your biology is still optimized for a life where energy was hard-won and precious, where feasts were followed by fasts. The fire that unlocked your mind also set a metabolic trap, waiting for the day the hunt would end and the delivery app would begin. So when you feel the weight of that fork in your hand, you are holding more than a tool. You are holding the endpoint of a 3 million-year journey. The sharp flake that opened the world's sealed containers. The social contract that turned food into a network. The fire that stole time from digestion and gave it to thought. Every meal you eat is a ritual descended from that circle of light. The sharing, the talking, the comfort. It's all coded into you. A direct line back to the hearth. Your brain, sitting there reading this, is the final product of that ancient, relentless pursuit of a better way to eat. You are not separate from the person crouched over a marrow bone, listening for hyenas. You are that person, living in a world where the hyenas are gone, but the ancient, hungry wiring remains. Your hands are clean, your food is cooked, your life is safe, but the story in your bones is still one of a creature that outsmarted hunger. What's the one taste, the one smell, that instantly makes you feel at home? That's your hearth calling back.